Hello, everyone. I am Betsy Schneider. I'm Program Director of the Wake Forest Summer Immersion Program, and I am excited to be here for another Summer Immersion Program Fireside Chat. This time, I am with our academic leader for our Filmmaking Institute. So, Chris Zaluski, thank you for being here. Um, we would love for you to kick us off by kind of telling us who you are, a little bit about your background, and what inspired you to lead the Filmmaking Institute.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you for having me. So my name's Chris. I started my career as a print journalist, actually. And so I worked for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the Roanoke Times. And as I was doing that, I was more and more introduced to the world of multimedia reporting. And so I became really interested in long form video stories and eventually documentary filmmaking. And that's what led me into this profession. I right now am the program director of the doc film program at Wake Forest, which is Wake's only MFA level graduate program. So I teach a lot of great students, but they're all graduate level students. And what is really exciting about the Summer Institute is that I get to teach high schoolers, which is a lot of fun. And I have two little kids, but they're not the high school level. So it's just a different energy that high schoolers bring to the Institute. And I really enjoy it.
Yeah, the Filmmaking Institute is definitely one of our most unique offerings. It is also one of our most hands-on institutes because students will walk away with films that they have created. So that is amazing. Um, Chris, would you mind talking us through what students can expect on a typical day in the Filmmaking Institute?
Sure, sure. Well, you mentioned this a second ago, but it's very hands-on. The students will produce three different projects in the week, which is pretty crazy because the week's, 5 days, and really the fifth day is just watching some of the films. So in 4 days, you're making three different films. So that's the main part of the Institute. It's very hands-on, it's very creative. We also will visit a film festival in downtown Winston, a festival called River Run, and get to see their facilities. And then we'll hear from a few different professional filmmakers throughout the week, just to talk about the world of filmmaking, which is really broad and it can look really different depending on what you're interested in. Me personally, I'm a documentary filmmaker. That's not the only type of filmmaking we will be talking about. So just trying to broaden a student's exposure to what filmmaking can mean.
Yeah, yeah, great. Well, thanks for talking us through. I love that you mentioned that it's kind of like a combination of hands-on creation, learning from filmmakers in industry and those who teach filmmaking, and then also kind of going behind the scenes to see where the magic happens. So that's awesome. Can you talk us through a little bit more about the different films that students will be able to create throughout the week?
Sure. So, right from day one, we do something called a single take film, which basically gets students just out there on campus working with some of their classmates, and thinking through how you can tell a story in a single take. Meaning, you press record and you let the action unfold. And by that, I mean like you're directing it a little bit, but everything is done in a really condensed setting. So, that's the first film. Throughout the week, you're going to be working on a personal narrative documentary, which is something that you'll film on Tuesday and you'll edit on Thursday. And that's a short documentary where you are talking about something that's important to you. That could be a story, that could be a hobby, that could be a family member or a friend, whatever it might be. You'll film that on Tuesday, we'll edit that on Thursday. That's more of like a 3 to 5 minute doc short. And then on Wednesday, you are doing storyboarding and you're filming a fiction scene. And what's really fun about that project is you're in groups for all of these projects. But that project's interesting because you storyboard it and film it. And then the teaching assistants and myself are actually the editors on that, which is pretty akin to what happens in the real world setting, in that you most of the time are not the one editing the footage that you shoot. And so it's kind of fun to shoot something, give it to us. We put our creative spin on it, and then we'll watch it on Thursday. And then on Friday is the last film that we watch, which is the doc shorts. So it's very fast paced. It's very hands on. You do a number of different things, and students will gravitate toward one form or another by the end of the week. But that's kind of the point. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I love that they get to experience and create such a diverse array of mini films.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that you and the teaching assistants will edit for that last film, but students will they will gain a few skills in editing as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll learn how to shoot on some of the cameras that we have here in the doc film program, Sony Z90s. We'll have camera equipment, microphone equipment, all of that stuff. And then on Thursday, we really go into editing. And that'll be when they're crafting their own films and they're learning about adding, archival photos or video on top of that footage. And yeah, by the end of the week, they have received very much like a survey level of a lot of different filmmaking styles as well as some technical abilities.
Yeah, great. So we have offered a screenwriting institute for the past couple of summers, in addition to our filmmaking institute, which we've offered with you for quite a few years at this point. So if a student is considering both screenwriting or filmmaking, kind of talk us through the difference between the filmmaking institute versus what a student might get at the screenwriting institute.
Sure, sure. So there are going to be some screenwriting elements in my class. Where there will mostly be like a storyboarding and screenwriting, a little exercise to start your fiction scene, but it really will not deal with the all of the details and intricacies of screenwriting. That's going to lie more in the Screenwriting Institute. I think the Filmmaking Institute is going to be a little bit more hands-on with the technical, meaning, you're shooting with cameras, you're editing, you're doing that type of stuff. Whereas the Screenwriting Institute is more from a writing standpoint. Both are super valuable, and you do a lot of writing in the world of filmmaking. But I think the Filmmaking Institute is probably going to be a little bit more hands-on with cameras.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
perfect. Um, and students are able to do both.
Yeah,
So if they
right. I was
want
going
to
to say,
gain,
just do both, why not?
yeah, if you want to gain skills in both the filmmaking, the technical side of things, and also the person who's writing,
Mhm.
writing the scenes and writing films and TV shows and things like that, then you do have the option to do both. Great. Well, I feel like that is a really good overview of the Filmmaking Institute thus far. So now let's kind of go into more of the logistics of the Institute.
Sure.
Where does the Filmmaking Institute take place? So students can kind of envision where they'll be on campus.
Sure. It's on campus in a building called Kirby, which is right off of one of the main quads. It's a really short walk to the dining hall as well. A lot of the exercises that the students will do in terms of going out and filming a scene or doing a one-take film or even just filming the documentary interviews, that happens on campus. We don't stay in our classroom for that. So Kirby's a really great location because it's really in the center of campus, and it allows students to explore different areas and quickly, see different parts of campus.
Great. And that brings me to, that reminds me of when the students do go down and are in downtown Winston-Salem. Talk me through the opportunity to kind of also film in downtown Winston-Salem.
Right, right. So on one of the afternoons, we go downtown to see the River Run Film Festival's offices, which are on the top floor of the Winston Tower, which is really cool because you have a great view of downtown Winston and the surrounding area. And then after that trip, we'll have about an hour where students can be downtown, film some more footage for their projects. A lot of students choose to film some B-roll for their documentary projects. We'll have the cameras with us, and just kind of explore downtown Winston. I mean, I think that if a student is coming to the Institute from an area not in North Carolina or not in Winston-Salem, I think they'll be surprised at how much is happening in downtown Winston. So, part of it is just to show them this is what downtown looks like, and then also to film some additional footage for their projects.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize what a creative and artsy city that Winston-Salem is. I think, what is the nickname for Winston? Is
The
it
city of arts and innovation.
Yeah, the City of
Yeah.
Arts and Innovation. So I always love that students are able to kind of capture some of the character that downtown Winston-Salem has in their documentaries. All right, another logistics question, Chris. What do students need to bring with them for the Filmmaking Institute to be prepared?
Sure. So they need to bring a laptop, and it has to be a laptop that can run the program Adobe Premiere, which is what we use to edit. And so most of the time, that's, most of your standard laptops will work with that. It cannot be a Chromebook or an iPad, though. So it has to be an actual laptop. The other thing that if a student has a camera that they've shot, photos or video with before, they're welcome to bring that, and they could use that. Either as their only camera or in addition to the cameras that we'll have. And then the last thing is because the final film is their personal documentary. If they have things like family photos or home movies or anything like that that they think would be interesting to include in the film, I always encourage students to bring those things as well.
Yeah, I love it when students incorporate home videos into their mini docs or kind of like special items from their childhood. I think
Yeah.
students have gotten really creative over the years, and I love watching what they're able to create by the end. Well, thank you for talking us through that.
Yeah.
I think another important question that kind of leads to, do students need to have a background in filmmaking? Do they need to have had taken a class or know how to work a camera or anything like that? Talk us through what, if there's any prerequisites for this institute, so to speak.
Sure, sure. And there are not. There's no prerequisites. The course is designed to take students who've never touched a camera and have never edited and get everybody up to a working level of proficiency. I would say, out of the 20 students, maybe half have done some element of video production. And so you shouldn't at all feel like you don't have the necessary experience to do the institute. It's not designed to get somebody into an advanced level, right? Like everybody's just going to learn the skills they need to do some of these projects. And hopefully, and this is the goal, is to pique some interest so that you decide when you go back home, like this is something I want to do. And maybe you get involved in your high school or, a local organization to continue with this.
Yeah, and I love it so much because a student just may be really passionate about film. And, maybe many high schools don't offer this type of course. So
Mhm.
it's really nice for students who think they may be interested in this, who have creative, kind of innate abilities and want to kind of test the waters of this. Come on, like come try it out. There's
Yeah.
no pressure, there are no grades involved in any of our institutes. So it's a really great way to kind of explore the things that you're curious about. And as you mentioned, Chris, kind of like just allow students to see if it is something they want to pursue in
Mhm.
the future. So this is
Yeah.
a great launch pad, I would say, for anyone interested in film.
Yeah, and it makes you appreciate film in a different way, having gone through to create your own as well. So I would agree. It's a launch pad. That's the goal.
Yeah, and that's a good that's interesting you say that. Yesterday I did a fireside chat with our Entrepreneurship Institute academic leader, and we talked about how after the institute you kind of are thinking through a different lens. You're
Hmm.
thinking about things in your life through the lens of entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And with this, it's kind of the same thing. I feel like after students walk away from the Filmmaking Institute, they will have this lens where everything is an opportunity to capture with a camera, a story to tell. So I think that's a pretty neat kind of like a shift in thinking and
Yeah.
mindset that students will be able to walk away with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just, I mean, watching the evening news at night and just knowing a little bit of how they piece together those segments. So
Mhm.
it really does span genres. Like it's not just the biggest movie the movie theater, but it can be any type of video production after this institute. You'll be able to look at it and at least understand the building blocks that went into that.
Yeah. Um, how do you think that's kind of another good segue to this next
Mhm.
question.
Yeah.
How do you think students' experience in the Filmmaking Institute might connect with their future careers?
Well, I mean, I think any career needs some level of storytelling. And it doesn't matter if you're going into media or something that's more traditional film, or you may be going into poli sci or history or education, whatever it might be, I think it does enhance kind of how you think about your field and the things you can do in your field. And the more that you can fold in storytelling to whatever you're doing is a benefit. Um, and then if you do really get interested in media and that's what you want to do, I think this kind of gives you a leg up and you're able to start enhancing these skills and building these skills. I think a big part of the Institute as well, and this kind of goes for any institute, but I see it a lot with the Filmmaking Institute, is you make friends in these places that have similar interests as you. And those are people that you're going to talk with after you leave Wake and people that you may work with again on creative projects, or you may create a creative project and you send it to some of your former classmates to get their feedback. I mean, that's kind of how filmmaking happens, right? You can't do this in a vacuum. And the more that you can build your network with like-minded individuals, the better. And I think that that's another big benefit of this program.
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, it's kind of like a first, it's kind of also kind of testing the waters of what networking feels like almost,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
continuing to build those relationships in a more professional, of course, students become friends, but also kind of testing the waters of what it feels like to network and kind of
Mhm.
continue to nourish relationships that could lead to something exciting in the future. Well, that's another good transition. So let's talk about who students will be interacting with throughout the week. So we're
Sure.
meeting you
Mhm. There'll be
as,
two students. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so you're the academic leader, and
I
then
am the
we can
academic
talk
leader. Yeah.
about the teaching assistants. So talk us
Yeah.
through how the teaching assistants engage with students.
Right, right. So, since filmmaking is very hands-on, sometimes it's really hard to do some of the technical parts of the course in terms of like learning the camera or learning editing in a big group. So we do split up into small groups occasionally to learn some of those tools. And when we do that, we have two teaching assistants in the program, and they're both graduate students in the documentary film program. So those are people that'll be there through the whole week that help you with your projects, that help with technical issues that come up, anything like that. So that's a big part of the Institute. I've been mentioning River Run Film Festival, like that's somebody else that students will interact with, the director of that. And then there is a section where I'm bringing in some guest filmmakers to talk about filmmaking. So yeah, there's kind of a mixture of individuals, but in terms of who is going to be leading some of the lectures and some of the hands-on portions of the institute, it'll be myself and two teaching assistants, two grad students.
Great. All right, so now we're going to transition into the section where we learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Um, so what is a fun fact about yourself that would totally surprise your students?
Okay, fun fact. I love karaoke. I'm a big fan of karaoke. It's kind of something I've done for a really long time with my friends, and so I'm a big fan of karaoke. I won't do that in the Summer Institute, but just as a separate, just something to know.
Well, we do offer karaoke as an evening activity each week,
I know,
Chris.
and I was happy to see that last year. I thought that was a good choice.
So, well, we have to ask, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it depends. It kind of depends on the setting. I have some classic rock songs. I have some country songs. Probably country more and more. I really do like singing 90s country. So,
Fun. Okay, so now these are rapid fire questions.
okay,
So I'll just
got it.
say, something and then answer with the first thing that comes to your head. Favorite book?
Saints at the River by Ron Rash.
Okay, never heard of it, but I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Um, Favorite movie or TV show?
Big Lebowski.
What are you currently listening to, either music or podcasts?
MJ Lenderman, musician. Yep.
Favorite food?
Pierogies.
I actually knew that about you. Do you have any pets?
Yeah, I have a dog. Yeah, a dog.
What's your dog's name?
Kaya.
Kaya. What kind of dog?
Oh man, she's a mutt. She's old. She's like 10 years old. She has her hips are starting to go, but she's a great dog. She's just a mutt. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Favorite hobby outside of documentary filmmaking?
Um, Probably hiking and camping.
Mhm. And what is your favorite place that you've ever traveled?
Um, a town on the Atlantic coast of France called La Rochelle.
Cool.
Hmm.
All right, so we are winding down our fireside chat. Thanks for sharing all of that
Yeah.
about you. So if you had to describe the Filmmaking Institute in just 3 words, what would they be?
Creative, experiential, which is a hands-on, but hands-on's 2 words. So
Mhm.
creative, experiential, and fun.
Yeah, great. All right, finish this sentence. You should experience the Filmmaking Institute if you're someone who blank.
Likes working with other people and expressing themselves.
Great. And what is your favorite thing about working with high school students in this program?
They're a lot of fun. I mean, they have a lot of energy. They have a lot of big ideas, and it's really enjoyable to see everybody kind of come together by the end of the week, which is something I haven't talked about yet in this is the Friday of the week is kind of what we call the filmmaking film festival. And that's when we screen all of the mini documentaries that the students have created. And it's amazing to see the bonds that have been created just from Monday to Friday. And I love that. And I think that's something that is fairly unique to high schoolers.
Yeah, I love that too. I always try to pop in for the film festival on
Mm,
Friday, and I am
yeah.
always blown away
Mm,
by, yes, the close-knit groups and teams of filmmakers that have kind of come together, and just what students are able to produce is
mhm.
incredible. All right, our last question of our fireside chat. Why Wake?
Oh man. Well, Wake is such a beautiful campus. Like I think in terms of an immersion program like this, it is just, especially in the summer, it's such a beautiful campus. It's small, but it feels very traditional as terms of a college campus. And I think that if a student is trying to get a college feel for in a program like this, Wake is as good of a campus as you could get that on. I mean, I really believe that everything's close, but it feels very much like you are, in a college setting. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for kind of sharing more about the Filmmaking Institute, sharing about yourself. And we are just so fortunate to be able to offer this Filmmaking Institute because so many of our other institutes are very much, career focused, less creative, major focused. But the Filmmaking Institute is completely unique, and we could not offer it without you. So we are appreciative of that as well.
Yeah, no, I love doing it, and thank you for having me in the fireside chat.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If you do have any questions about the Filmmaking Institute or the Summer Immersion program in general, as always, just email summerimmersion@wfu.edu. But otherwise, I will see you for my next fireside chat. Thanks.